Hey guys, today I'm going to show you an interesting setup that I have for my two air conditioner units in my bedroom. Now what's interesting about this is, first things first, like you have like two 10 amp rated units running off a 15 amp dedicated receptacle or a line without overloading it. Another thing is all the monkeying I had to do with the ducting, the two exhaust ducts that I have for these units to like pump the hot air out of the room. And these ducts will typically connect to a window to like pump out the hot air. As you can see, they're not going exactly out the window, but more like under my bed. They are going out the window, however, but they have to go underneath my bed, and then they're turning left and they're going into like the next room, into this hole that I cut out in the drywall. And then these two pipes are going into these booster fans due to the fact that it's a long duct run. I have to like have like a booster for like, like to help to like reduce the airflow resistance. And yeah, these are going into the slider window here that's like in this room, and this is like the proper window to install for these air conditioner units, as opposed of this one that I have. Now basically with the electrical, what the trick is to like have the voltage converted from 120 volts that was feeding that receptacle that's there, right? That's coming straight from the panel into 240. So just put a double breaker here in North America is all you gotta do. So now these air conditioners are on 120, and you're wondering, did I put them in series? No, I did not put them in series. You can't. So what I did was I installed like two transformer units for them. But before I get there, I'm gonna show you like how this works around how the cables run and everything. So you got that black cable, which is basically like a 6-15P plug, or like a 6-15R receptacle. That's like basically like a 15 amp 240 volt North American receptacle without the neutral. That just basically feeds into that cable and goes into that junction box that has a special switch I'll explain later, and goes like into this European power bar that like splits off to my two air conditioner units, which are these two cables. This is like for like a light that I miraculously brought from Poland without even smashing my luggage. Nice light. While this is also like just a power adapter, just a regular, like, some old phone charger or whatever. And now these two 240 volt orange and blue cables are going underneath my bed into these big 5 kVA transformers that have that step down to 120 volts AC. One you can see has a brighter lamp, the other one has a dimmer one because like it's a neon lamp that's burning out. The other one, the one on the right, is older, and like the lamp is already burning out because it's on the whole time 24/7, but whatever, that's okay. As you can see, these had been modified too, because these were like, what can I say, these were not really safe when I first bought them online, because they're like the North American to European or vice versa, like carry-on transformers to like run like European or North American stuff on it. And they had a switch to switch 120 volt input or 240 volt input, and you also had this strange universal receptacle. You probably would see it. It's like a receptacle, an outlet that you can plug in a North American plug and a European plug into the same face. And these are funky because they hold weird. They don't have good contact. They're like 10 amp rated. And believe it or not, it's been under like a 40 amp breaker. So like I was like, I don't tolerate that. So I'm just going to rip it out and, like just work on it inside. Anyway, I unscrewed the transformer and I took it out from underneath my bed. What you see here is this is the actual transformer, this donut shaped piece that you see with the copper windings. That thing is called a toroidal transformer, which is basically due to the fact that it's a toroid. It's a round, cylindrical transformer, which you have like, it's more popular in like larger applications, or like large, like, amplifiers, like guitar amplifiers or whatever. They're more popular than that. But however, as opposed to like a regular transformer like this that has a primary winding and a secondary winding that are both electrically isolated. So this is 120 volts in, and this is whatever, like multiple voltages coming out. This guy is an auto transformer, which is basically, you have like, pardon my drawing because I have to give myself a whiteboard, is basically something like this. So you have L1 and L2, that's like 100 and that's 240 volts AC coming from the mains, right, through that blue cable that you see on the back. And then you have like this is the transformer. This is like the winding that's supposed to go all the way around. So you have one hot's going to one winding, the other hot's going to the other end of the winding. That's like, you know, like to feed the transformer. To grab, like, say 120, you have to grab the neutral, or this is not a neutral because it's not even grounded or anything, so it can't be even called a neutral. But like but basically you just have 120 volts between one of the hot conductors and like that center tap. Like this can be like a variac, even a variable auto transformer, where you can have like even a higher voltage. If this was like adjustable, you can have this wire connecting here. You can have, say, 180 volts or 200 volts, whatever, right? Or if you go here, you'll have below 120 volts, like 80 volts, 60 volts, blah blah blah, right? That's a variac. It's like a transformer with a knob on top. It kind of looks like a humongous potentiometer or something, or rheostat. That's what it is, right? An old school looking thing. But this is just a fixed transformer. And what's special about the auto is that like it's got like it's cheaper due to its size, because this is a 5 kVA transformer. This thing has to be like, you know, like this thing's cheaper to have one winding as opposed to two, meaning less copper to use up, and it's also smaller in size. Otherwise this thing would maybe be, I don't know, twice the size or something. Because you'd have the primary winding and you have like a secondary winding, which would be a thicker gauge wire to like make 120 volts. So that's the case. That's the case. Anyway, as opposed of like, say, normally like you'd have a transformer which is isolated like this. This would be the case if this was like double the size. This would be like, you know, this would be like a thin wire. This would be a thick wire, like a heavier gauge, because it gives you like a lower voltage and higher current. So half the voltage, twice the current. That's basically what this is. And now here, you probably know in North America, you get 240 volts between line 1 and line 2. No, that's not two-phase. That's single-phase voltage. And single-phase voltage is accomplished by this ugly, terrible drawing. Basically what you have is, this is the pad mounted transformer or the pole mounted transformer on the street in North America. This is your like whatever kilovolts coming from hydro. I don't know. I can care less. That's not my business. And this is like your basically like a regular iron core transformer, like such as this one kind of, but like, you know, like a bigger version. That has like, you know, like a winding, a center tapped winding, and this is better than an auto transformer because it physically isolates from the like the high kilovolts, which is very lethal. Like it's only like, you know, it's connecting by like, say, magnetic field only. So there's no way in hell like, you know, this can bypass to this and kill someone, right? And also it has a benefit of having like, you know, you can bond the center part, where you have like a neutral, you bond it to ground, and you have like hot to hot. These are two hot conductors. This is hot to neutral. This is hot to neutral. So 120, 120, 240. Once again, pardon for my terrible drawing, but this is like how it looks like, kind of thing. That's why I can accomplish, you know, I can get 240 volts. This is grabbing from like the two sides of my pad mounted transformer, because I have underground service here in Milton, Ontario, and that's why it's pad mounted, not pole mounted in like Toronto and some other places. But anyway, enough with that electrical theory talk. Now let's go to like how I wired up this thing. Basically what I did was, this was all completely rewired, because this breaker was a 40 amp breaker protecting like this weird receptacle that I was talking about, that maybe that's like the 120 240 volt whatever, like 10 amp receptacle that can accept North American plugs such as these, the European plugs such as what's behind that unit. So like, that thing's terrible. That was protecting by 40 amp breaker. The wiring was flimsy, like this was poorly soldered on, so I just ripped it all out. I cut it all off, I scrapped it, whatever, you name it, and I rewired it. by simply using like these TEW 600 volt appliance hookup wires, 105 degrees Celsius rating, that I soldered onto properly onto these transformer leads. So this is the center. This is like the 240 volts coming from like in and out, right? This is an 18 amp breaker that protects my 20 amp receptacle. This thing is safe to even operate on like this thing is safe to operate even on 1800 watts safely with this transformer core working nice and cool, so it doesn't even get hot. So like it doesn't, if you run a like really, if you start to run a like 3000 watts or something of power or more, then you can actually feel it starts to get like relatively hot, but it doesn't. And you got these two breakers, so just to protect the like the primary in case of like should it's short to like ground or whatever, right? Like the winding, it'll just trip the breaker as opposed to like the main, you know, like the main double pole breaker at the electrical panel. So yeah, that's what this is. Like nothing to it, nothing crazy, but I rewired it, so at least it's safe. And at least, you know, I can run it under my bed nicely, and I can listen to the 60 hertz as I sleep. Kidding, people. It's very quiet, you can't even hear it. Now moving down to where my power source is, right? My electrical outlet. As you can see, this is like the normal receptacle I'm talking about for like, you know, like 240 volt applications without the neutral. This is, like I said, the 6-15R receptacle. That's its plug. Strange plug. Yeah, it has an interesting looking face, kind of, as you can see, as opposed to the North American standard ones you see everywhere. But anyway, this box, I'm going to explain what it is. This box has a current switch inside, which is a solid state switch, like current transformer that actually, like, you know, like closes like a solid state switch for the booster fans. So basically what it is like you got two power cords. You got this power cord that actually is the booster fans that draw nothing. It's like maybe half an amp each or something. So 1 amp, so I just plug into my standard receptacle that's wired up with my other receptacles, like with my 2 bedrooms, 12 receptacles max by code. And this guy basically is like the wire goes through that current switch, and it just acts kind of like as a primary winding, you can say, just one loop going through it. And like basically these wires are my switch contacts that turn on the booster fan. So the way this is wired is like when you turn on the fan, or like the AC unit such as this, it's already unplugged. You turn it on, you have minimum 5 amps of current going through one of them. It turns on both the booster fans. I plug in a vacuum cleaner into this, let's say, that draws 1100 watts. It turns on the booster fans, no problem, like even if the AC units aren't on. That's what it is, right? Because this is kind of like a similar setup you have in condos here in North America. Like condos or apartment buildings where you have for like a dryer hookup, where you turn on your clothes dryer, it turns on like an exhaust fan. So that's what it is, hooked up to your 30 amps dryer receptacle. This is just like a DRT or dryer range, what's it called? Current switch. At least that's what they call it at the electrical supplier. Yeah, so that's basically what it is. And this feeds my, like, you know, European power bar, blah, 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 right? So that's what this whole setup is. Anyway, nothing crazy. At least thanks to this video, I can actually clean up a little bit because there's so much dust and everything. I have to vacuum. And yeah, what can I say? Hopefully you guys enjoyed my little video. Like I said, it's hella rare what I did, and it's interesting too for your electrical folks. And yeah, hopefully guys see more of my videos. Stay tuned.